Welcome back. I'm ready to read chapter 2 for you from Julius, the perfectly pesky pet parrot. Isn't that some great alliteration where they use the same beginning sound for all of the words? Julius learns to love. As Mom and Mitch checked the damage, they heard the whir of wings, and Julius landed on Mitch's shoulder. Scared to death, Mitch stood perfectly still, barely daring to breathe. As Mitch looked at the bird from the corner of his eye, Julius looked huge. He stood at least 16 inches tall, but felt as light as a feather. Julius's bright green feathers had shown feathers of electric blue as he flew through the living room. Mitch wondered how anything could be so beautiful yet so horrible. Julius moved closer to Mitch's face, and Mitch leaned away from the beastly bird. He could see Julius's bright red head and the brilliant yellow of his cheeks. No one said a word, not even Julius. Julius edged closer until his wing touched Mitch's cheek. Then he leaned his full weight on Mitch's face and rubbed his head on Mitch's cheek. Mitch caught Mom's eyes. "What do I do now?" he asked silently, just moving his lips. "Tell me before he kills me." "Move slowly into your room. He seems calm. Maybe you can put him into the cage before he knows what's happening." Good thinking. Mitch edged slowly, very slowly into his room and over to the parrot cage. Fearful to catch the bird in his hand, Mitch eased down to the open door. As he neared the door, the parrot hopped onto Mitch's forearm, then on into the cage in his perch. He looked into Mitch's eyes. "Hello, hello, hello," he yelled at full volume. Mitch shut the door and latched it. "I'm going after a piece of wire to fasten it," he said. "I think he let himself out." After Julius was secure, Mitch gave a sigh of relief and hurried away to school. Although he thought about the bird all day long, he didn't tell a soul he owned a parrot. When Mitch came home, he discovered a package had been delivered for him. Opening it, he found some dates, grapes, a banana, and a little dish with a tiny spoon. A small piece of paper dropped to the floor. Mitch picked it up and read, "Mitch, I forgot to give you Julius's oatmeal dish and spoon. He loves oatmeal. Let him feed himself. He needs fruit too. Be sure to give him lots of attention. When he learns to love you, he'll lean against you to get his head scratched. Take good care of him. He's special. Oh yes, he opens his cage. Love, Uncle Darrell." Well, thanks for telling us that ahead of time, right? Mom scowled. "I wonder if Uncle Darrell knows he eats tables and lampshades. I don't know, but let's fix him some oatmeal and see what he does with that." Mitch slid another saucer into the cage and made the mess even worse as he poured the cereal into it. Julius dropped to the bottom of the cage when Mitch shoved the little spoon through. Mitch couldn't believe his eyes when Julius picked up the spoon with his left foot, dipped it into the warm oatmeal, and held it to his mouth. He gobbled the cereal from the spoon and dipped up more. A big smile crept over Mitch's face. "Did you ever see anything like that?" he asked. "That ought to make up for something, don't you think?" "It doesn't pay for the damage you did to my table," Mom said. Her lips twitched into a tiny smile. "Does it take away the pain of his bites?" "Mom," Mitch said, "how many times does the Bible say we're supposed to forgive?" Mom laughed out loud. "More times than we can count, but we're supposed to forgive people. Julius barely qualifies as a bird." She smiled again and poked Mitch in the ribs. Mitch returned the smile. "Well, I think he's pretty cute, but I still have to clean his cage. How am I supposed to do that?" Mom turned toward the door. "That's your problem," she said. "I'll be thinking about you." She closed the door quietly behind her, leaving Mitch with a filthy cage and a super mean bird. Although the thought left him shaking, he decided to open the cage and let the parrot out while he cleaned up the mess. He'd worry about getting Julius back in later. Julius spotted the open door in a hurry. He jumped through and took off flying. He lighted on top of the bookcase and sat quietly watching Mitch. Mitch edged toward the cage. Would the bird attack when Mitch messed with his cage? He watched his scary pet as he opened the door. His eyes never left the parrot as he stuck first one arm inside, then the other. But Julius ignored him. Feeling braver, he started cleaning the cage. With the spilled water, parrot seed, and oatmeal, he had quite a job. Keeping one eye on the fearsome bird at all times, he hurried and finished before the parrot moved from the bookcase. Then he spread clean papers in the bottom of the cage, put in fresh water, and filled the feed dish. Now the hard part, how to get Julius back into the cage without harm to the bird and without letting the bird eat him. As he wandered around the room trying to get brave enough to do something, he heard a whir of wings and felt the parrot land on his shoulder. Mitch stood still. He felt Julius inching over to his face and the slight weight of the little body leaning against his cheek. Then the bright head rubbed his cheek. It took all the courage Mitch could find to put his finger beside Julius's head. Then he gently scratched. Julius leaned on Mitch's hand, whispering, "K-k-k-k-k-k-k-k-k," into Mitch's ear. Mom opened the bedroom door and seeing Julius on Mitch's shoulder, crept in ever so quietly. Mitch grinned. "Well, Mom," he said, "the Bible says humans are supposed to be the master of all the animals. I'm not sure who's the boss around here, but I think Julius likes me." A few days later, Mitch sighed as he opened Julius's cage. "I sure spend a lot of time cleaning this thing," he thought as Julius hopped out and onto his shoulder. The large green parrot leaned against Mitch's face, rubbing his bright red head up and down. He whispered into Mitch's ear. Mitch smiled and gently stroked his pet's head with his index finger. "But you're worth it, aren't you, Julius?" he said out loud. Before Mitch could get out of the way, Julius reached out and tweaked the boy's lips with his beak. Wow, whatever that was, it didn't hurt. A recent memory verse said, "If you're nice to those who aren't nice to you, they'll change and be your friend." Now Mitch had proof that it worked. He had been nice to Julius when Julius had been mean to him. And now Julius had just kissed him. He and Julius were going to have lots of fun together now that they were friends. And that is the end of chapter 2. So I hope you'll join me next time for chapter 3. Bye.